Hello, welcome to episode one of Quick Reads. I am one of your two hosts, Joshua, and this is my co-host, Andrew.
What's up?
Hello. We're here. We've already read In the Tall Grass by Stephen King, and uh, I think it was pretty good overall. Uh, Starts off with Cal and Becky. To I'm assuming Cal is either a freshman in college or somewhere around there.
So,
Can't and
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, because
Yeah, and
they're
then because Becky's a sophomore.
yeah, and they're twins. So yeah, I mean they have to be the same year. So yeah, they must both be
Well,
sophomores, right? Oh, they're
well, they're
19
not
months
quite
apart.
twins.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're bas It's kind of like me and my sister are. So that's why uh this story I like felt kind of personal a little bit
Oh,
to
okay.
a point. To a point.
Yeah, because you're fairly close in
Because
age to your sister, right?
yeah, we're only 18 months apart,
Oh, there
and
you
so then
go.
these two are 19. So
Maybe you got to go down to Topeka and go find yourself some grass then.
oh shit. I already got my Two Rivers Tabac. I got my old grass. So
Uh,
I don't need to do more. Oh,
okay,
so I guess
that's.
it start.
I'm glad we clarified
Go
that
ahead.
because I thought they were actual twins. I didn't comprehend that
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Well, it's like the beginning of the story is a bunch of word vomit, like it usually is. So it's like if you're not like, and I read through it twice before this video because there were some parts where I was like, oh, I need a refresher.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, I went. Yeah, so I went through it twice in the last week just so I could remember. So I was like, all right, I kind of remember that that part.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is
Um,
just to talk about I guess initial things here. This is like definitely the creepiest short story I've ever read. I mean, we all know Stephen King's a great horror writer, but it's definitely weird. And I mean,
yeah,
we talked about it in another episode, but we're originally from Kansas City area. So it's funny that Stephen King always seems to use Kansas when he's trying to pick out like a remote area to have creepy things in. I
yeah.
don't know if he's
It's like
afraid of Kansas
I
or I don't, he just the first
don't know
Midwest state that pops in his head. He's like, I'm just gonna pick Kansas because there's nothing out there. But it's funny that he uses it multiple
because
times.
what's really funny is like the tall grass. So it's like out in Kansas, like the tallest things you're really gonna see is like corn or wheat.
Yep.
But this grass is just like regular grass. So I'm assuming it's kind of like just long grass that like farmers would use, and then like like what are they when they make those big hay bales or whatever?
Yeah.
Not like hay, but like you know what I'm talking about, where they make like big circle
Yeah.
things of grass.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, I don't. What are those even called?
I don't know. We're not. We're
See them.
from Kansas,
We're
but
not.
we're not like farmers. We're from like the suburbs of
No, no.
Kansas City. We did not. We've never farmed.
Yeah, we don't have those yeehaws
No.
and gunslinger.
No.
So,
Yeah. No. It's
from the
It's
suburb.
if you're from Kansas too, like you said, like there's not a lot of tall grass really in
I think
Kansas.
it's more out in the country
Yeah. Yeah.
probably because we're by country, but we'd have to drive like 20 minutes maybe in a specific direction because when we were growing up, it was but the suburbs kind of took over by the time we went to college and everything. So there were small towns and other such like around, but we never really saw it because we never, unless we like went mudding or like what I went a couple times, but like,
Right.
or if we went down to get drunk at the shit shack, then we didn't really go into into the wilderness.
Oh man, our childhood was truly amazing.
Oh yeah, because I don't miss it at all.
Yeah, we don't. We live in the Southwest now, but yeah.
I went from like farmland to like desert.
Yep.
So like trees to cacti.
Yep.
Well, so did you
Yeah.
actually. So you're greener than mine.
Yeah, you're more used to it. You're like a real desert man. I've only been I know.
Yeah.
I mean, Phoenix, Arizona area is the real desert. So
Yeah, it's fucking concrete jungle out here is what everyone calls it. I don't understand this grid system. Like, fuck it, just tell me when to take a left in 10 minutes. See the big tree, take a right.
I do appreciate the grid
Oh,
system for me anyway, because I'm directionally challenged, so it's a little bit easier for me to learn the city, at least in New Mexico. But it's
it,
not like that in Kansas City. It is not a grid
yeah.
at all.
It it doesn't help me at all because I'm just kind of like, okay, drive this way for 10 minutes. Okay, drive this way until you pass two lights, and then drive this way. So like that's like how I do it. So driving in Phoenix drives me crazy. Driving in this, like, I need GPS everywhere.
Yeah,
I
I'm
am
the
starting to
same.
learn some streets though,
No, I'm the
but
same.
oh, it's funny about this short story. So like when they're going through traveling around Kansas and such, they go to what it was the biggest ball of twine.
Yes,
Like, is that
in
a thing?
Cocker
Is
City or whatever. Yes, it is. I actually knew that.
did
I'd
you?
heard of it. I'd never been there, but yes, I have heard that. I'm pretty sure that's a real thing. It's just one of those like weird like small town things.
Yeah, because like I've been to like Six Flags or
Yeah.
you pass by other small towns and like, but it's like I didn't know that, and so I'm like I grew up there my whole life. And I didn't even know. The next time I go back, I'll have to check it
I
out.
find it funny that Stephen King also made it a big deal for them to go see that. And obviously, when we talk
Yeah,
about characters that happen towards the end of it, I think they go to it as well. But it's just
yeah,
funny.
they
Yeah.
did. I think it's like that. Like if you lived in Arkansas or where's Mount Rushmore?
North Dakota or South
North
Dakota?
Dakota.
One of them.
Yeah, we're
One of the
terrible
Dakota. Yeah, I'm
Americans.
not geographically.
What state is Mount Rushmore in?
Yeah, we're just two guys. I'm not
South Dakota.
yeah, South Dakota.
I'm not a geologist, damn it. All right, so it's in, but I have a book in front of 50 states like that I got at a Cracker Barrel. But anyway, it's South Dakota. So it's like, okay, so you live in South Dakota, and it's like, well, have you been to Mount Rushmore? No, I've been here my whole life. I haven't been to Mount Rushmore. It's like
Yes,
same thing, but with a ball of twine I never knew existed. So I'm pretty sure you would know that you would know Mount Rushmore is in your state if you live there.
exactly. When you live in the place, you're not gonna like try to look for touristy things to do, I guess, because you just live there. So,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's all right. So to get all that yeehaw out of my system, uh, the all right. So the short story starts off with them these brother and sister Cal and Becky traveling around. I think Becky got pregnant. Her parents told her to go live with her aunt and uncle probably because they're like, oh, like, oh, who's the father, and she's like, won't tell anybody, and she's like, no good, nothing, and they're like, oh, but her mom got pregnant at like 19, but she's like, yeah, but I was married, and it's like a whole thing where she feels alone, kicked out of her parents' house, and like, and then her brother, since they've always been so close, he's uh, what they say, he was on spring break,
Hmm.
so he
Hmm.
was like, okay, let's just go around and cross country and look at some stuff. So they ended up they're in Kansas. She's pregnant, uh, and they're. Did they see the twine ball? Yeah. So they're
Yeah.
heading
Mhm.
to a new spot,
Yep.
and then what a coincidence that the only reason they heard the screaming of a boy in the distance was because they had the windows down and the radio off, and I can't remember who wanted what, but it just happened that way. I'm not gonna dwell on it too hard.
Yeah.
So,
It
would there you can go.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It
No, I was just about to ask you what you thought about
Yeah.
that coincidence. Like, what's the coincidence?
Yeah, no, it's definitely there's a coincidence. I want to talk just to back up a little bit there too. Even like in the beginning of the story, he's kind of setting up the theme of separation, like loneliness. obviously when we get like more into the short story, that's going to be like a recurring thing where they're separated. And her getting pregnant is like a major life event that he didn't experience, of course, right? And it kind of is just illustrating that separation even from the beginning. But yeah, the coincidence of them not, they would have just passed by it if they had even just the radio on or if they had the windows up because they wouldn't have heard the screaming. So definitely creepy. But what did you kind of think about that?
Yeah, because they saw like, it's like as they're approaching it, like they see a sign that this is like Church of the Stone or something like Church of the Rock or whatever.
Yeah.
Church. And then they're like kind of like, oh, it must be just some small town Kansas thing, and I was deeply offended. No, I'm just kidding. But I, what did I think? I guess I didn't see as deep as you did in the beginning. I just kind of saw it as like, oh, uh she got pregnant and she doesn't want to like talk about it, or she doesn't. Not that she doesn't want to talk about it. I guess she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't choose to feel alone. Like
Yeah, I mean, Stephen King's always going to have a little bit of weirdness in his stories where, yeah, having them so close that they're siblings, but they would have maybe been together because they know each other so well if they weren't siblings.
Yeah, and I have a lot of siblings, so I'm just kind of like, okay, just gonna ignore
Yeah.
that.
Stephen King identified the stepbrother craze before it was going to happen.
Oh yeah,
I don't know when this was written. It probably was. Looks
it
like.
was in like it got published in 2012,
Oh, okay. All right. That's pretty
so
recent
it's
then.
well out. He was writing the craze.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're. I think it's probably true that yeah, like the beginning is more just setting up the characters and like their relationship and stuff. But yeah, that's my expert analysis.
Do you want to continue doing?
Yeah, I can. I can continue here. Yeah. um. So yeah, they like you said they were driving and there's a coincidence that they were hearing a boy yelling for help. So they pull over thinking, okay, it'll be really quick. We can just, find out what's wrong and maybe fix it fairly quickly. They don't think they're going to be there that long. So they get out of the car and they hear that the mother of the child is also yelling, but she's actually yelling like an opposite thing. She's saying, hey, stop making noise. He'll hear you. So you got kind of the like creepiness of a random boy in the middle of the tall grass in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. And we both know very well what it's like to be in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. We weren't out there all the time, but it's like, I mean, when there's no one out there, nobody is out there. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's very.
So it's like when you hear something from the grass, it's like if you don't have a gun, I wouldn't go.
Yeah, that's like terrifying.
You don't know what's out there. There could be coyotes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we have the boy yelling from the grass, and then the mom saying, "Hey, be quiet," because there's another person in the grass who's you assume is like some kind of killer or some crazy person. So Cal, the brother, thinks that the boy is just a few feet inside the field. He doesn't think he's very far away. Like he thinks the screaming isn't very far away, so he just kind of gets into the field fairly quickly. Even though I'm pretty sure the sisters Becky is like, don't go in there, but he just goes in. Um, so in fact, and I'm looking at these notes here, it sounds like he's so close that he dives in there to try to find him, and then once he's in there, he now the voice sounds like it's far away once he's in the grass, which is creepy.
Yeah. So you just have a repeated boy yelling for the woman's voice saying, "No, what are you doing? Don't get him in here." And then so you have like Cal and Becky are super confused because they're just like just lost in the grass, like just come here, like, what's going on? Because it's that whole situation in general just kind of makes you stop and think, like, what the hell? Like, how can you not get out of this grass? Just walk in one
Yeah,
direction, you'll get out.
exactly.
And then the kid's like, I've been stuck in here for days. I'm hungry or whatever. And then they're just like, what the hell? How? What? Because it's like it doesn't make any sense because you think any competent person could just walk out of there. Uh, you know. But then having like, but then here, like they're understanding with the boy, but then you hear the mom, and you're just like, that just adds a whole nother layer because it could be reasonable to believe a kid could get lost in there. Like we've seen corn mazes and such too, so it's like if big enough, a little boy young enough probably would get lost.
Yeah.
But then having like, but then having like a woman say it too, and then it's just like an adult, and you're just like, whoa, whoa, what's going on in there? And so, you know, Cal, in order to like be the manly man he is just like, what did they call him, Captain Cal?
Yeah, Captain Cal. He's like Captain Cal's coming or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and he just jumps in there ready to go. Uh, right. So, and then Becky's like, still pregnant. Just like watching this, she's like, all right, this would be cool. So she just sits by the car, waits for that to happen. Uh, but eventually, what is it like? He keeps sounding close and far away, just like the boy.
Hmm.
And then she ends up jumping in there too, getting impatient, doesn't want to wait for Cal to do it. So she also goes into the tall grass.
Yep. And you have the moment where it's like she was calling the authorities and she was on the phone with the police or whatever, this dispatcher. And she gets into the grass and then the bars on her phone slowly fade away and you get the real sense of like, oh no, you're screwed now.
Yeah. So yep, you're in a Stephen King story, and Joe Hill. Don't worry about
Yeah,
Joe Hill.
Sandra Hill.
But it's like I thought like that part especially uh, showed that like obviously we already know from it being a Stephen King story that this grass is something supernatural. Like just knowing Stephen King, that's the first thing that pops into your head. And so when she loses her like the phone signal when she steps into the grass, you're like, all right, this is where that starts. That's where you have like there's some sort of magic field or there's some sort of something going on that blocks the signal. And anyone like who doesn't know Stephen King who got to this point would be like, oh, what's going on here? But then I think that not a whole lot of people who don't already know who Stephen King is. Like, pretty sure everyone who reads Stephen King is. So it's kind of hard to get like a surprise going that this thing is going to be supernatural. But I think the way it's written kind of pulls off a good like, oh shit, she's not getting out of this. Neither's Cal,
Yeah.
and she's pregnant, so the stakes are high. So
Yep. And it gets increasingly worse when they discover they can't get to each other, even though it sounds like they're fairly close to each other. No matter how much they look through the grass, they can't find each other, and then they're slowly shifting away from their car as if they were like in an ocean, kind of being pushed away slowly, and they don't really have any control over it.
which is very creepy. Like I couldn't imagine being. It just kind of reminds me of when like Halloween would happen, and we'd do the corn mazes, and if we ever got like split up or something, it'd just kind of be like, "Whoa, where are you at? I'm over here." It's
Yeah,
depending on how big the corn maze is.
yeah, seriously.
So I'm surprised. I'm starting to think that this wasn't called "In the Tall Corn" just be, just because of Children of the Corn. So otherwise, I would imagine it being like I would have thought that it'd be like corn or wheat,
Yeah, look, if
something
we want
besides
this to
grass.
be Kansas accurate, it needs to be in the tall corn. But
Yeah, and the tall
yeah,
corn and in the wheat
in
fields.
the wheat
The
field.
wheat
Yeah,
no, the wheat fields, not wheat fields.
yeah, maybe both.
But it depends. Kansas is pretty conservative. When it comes to
Yeah,
weed.
they're not gonna grow that there.
No, not legally.
No.
But uh, yeah. But anyway, it's grass. I think in the tall grass maybe probably just sounds better than in the tall weeds or in the corn maze or something. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, track again. So like, so they're going back and forth. Cal's getting pissed off because so a big like chunk of this is them just going back and forth in the corn.
Yeah, realizing
Uh,
how
so
desperate it is.
yeah, so it kind of just builds up, and I don't think we should really go through every single little
No.
little thing. Like the gist is they're in here for a while. No phone signal. Can't find the boy. Thing, so can't hear her anymore. Uh, I think Becky's starting to hear some other noises coming around. Uh, and so we don't know how long they've been in this club, but long enough for I think Cal to start getting thirsty. Or Becky's getting thirsty, and they're like, "Well, if only I had like a Coke right about now, or Pepsi, or whatever they say." But yeah, just gets. Is there anything you want to talk about that? To
Nothing in particular. I think it's
yeah.
an interesting concept where like he's like they're really thirsty, but you can't really drink the water, even though like I think they're like well like ankle deep, calf deep in like this gross like swampy grass water, but it's gross to drink it because it's so gritty and muddy. So even though
Yeah,
you're thirsty and you have water all around you, it's kind of like you can't really drink it without it being
yeah.
gross.
So and then oh yeah, at one point, while they're looking around, Cal does stumble across a dead dog,
Yes.
a golden retriever,
Yep.
and isn't it like ripped apart
Yeah, it's
and
it's
stuff too? Like it's all
ripped apart and
okay.
it's implied that it like somebody took a bite out of it, right? So now you have like a potential
Yeah,
like, cannibal or some or
yeah. So
monster or
then,
whatever. Yeah.
because then you start to think, oh, so these people have been in here for days, and then now there's a dead dog, because they didn't really believe it at first, but now that they're in the grass, oh, shit, this might be some weird stuff going on. It's like, oh, did they eat a dog?
Yeah.
But so overall, this whole part was just like, hey, I can't find you. Hey, I can't find you either. You're further away. You're closer. Oh, there's some weird shit going on.
Mhm.
And so, unless there's anything you want to add to that, we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, we can move on. I think that's all I
Yeah.
got. Yeah.
So at some point, uh, what's uh, what's that guy, the husband's name?
Ross.
Ross. So Ross sneaks up on Becky, right? Real creepy like, and he's just like, "Hey, you there?" Uh, he's just like, "I can get you out of this tall grass. You just follow me, sir,"
Right.
or whatever he says, and it's uh, in his appearance. I know she says like she can smell uh like the fresh cut lawn smell coming straight off him.
Yeah, and he has blood all over his
He's
shirt and stuff like that. And
yeah, yeah, basically looks like a crazy bloody dude, but
yeah.
and she goes with him mainly because I mean, what else is she gonna do? Go circles around?
Yeah.
She's getting weird vibes off this guy, but it's not like well, I guess it's not to a point. I think it's because she's pregnant too, that she's thinking I gotta like do whatever it takes to get out of here from the baby.
Definitely.
So she's willing to take the risk going with this guy to get out of the grass. So and so they get out of the grass and they get to this area where like they see the wife, or she assumes it's the wife, which is a pretty good assumption. But then she's do they see like the whole body?
Yeah, she
I
didn't
can't
like.
remember. Or is it just like an arm?
She saw, yeah. I think one of her arms was ripped off. She was clearly dismembered, and there was like another bite mark, similar to the golden retriever, where he was probably eating her. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
And like,
obviously, immediately realizes this is a bad idea, and then you have,
yeah,
and then you have the sequence of them struggling and fighting. Um, because he's trying to do serial killer things to her. But
yes. So here's another trend when it comes to Stephen King's writing is whether you like it or not, whether you're prepared for it or not. Uh, Ross wants to. So to her, it would. He basically wants to rape her. Like, except to him, he's like, "Oh, you'll like it. It'll be fun. Do it on this road and whatever." And she's obviously not into it, and so he's like, "I don't care. Like, I'll do it anyway." And it's, I'm trying to. I've been thinking about this scene more and more just to kind of picture why. Like, like it's not that like I mean it adds to the horror, yes, but I'm trying to see is trying to think is like whether it uh like if it needs to be there, you know.
yeah,
Trying to see it from a different angle. Like does I think because like I think it does add to the suspense of it because not only she's pregnant, right? So she has to protect the baby from this cannibal eating crazy dude, and obviously she can't let him physically abuse her either. So she's not just gonna sit down and take it, right? Uh,
yeah,
so it of it, but I guess the question I'm gonna ask you is, do you think that the story could have been better or worse if it took like the whole rape thing, or do you think it could have been done better, or do you think yeah, it's Stephen King, whatever?
yeah. I feel like it's just kind of like part of the territory with Stephen King, but also it does make the situation more severe, like the stakes of it, because in the beginning it's like, okay, we're stuck in the grass, we can't get to each other. But now it's like, okay, now there's a crazy guy, and not only is he gonna probably kill me and my baby, he's gonna physically abuse me and sexually assault me. So it's like it raises the stakes significantly and the horror. Like you said, it's a horror novella. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I think it's on brand with Stephen King, and it's like necessary if you want the highest shock factor, right? Like the highest horror
yeah,
factor and like the highest sense of dread. So
mm,
yeah, no, it was
yeah.
like,
'Cause I'm thinking,
and it was an extremely graphic depiction of when they fight
yeah,
after this, where she's falling on the ground, falling on her baby bump, like he's like kicking her in the baby bump and stuff like that. It's like very graphic, but yeah,
yeah. It's definitely not a story for like if people who like horror but don't like I guess how dark this kind of dark horror, then it's not gonna be for them. But if you're on brand with Stephen King, like give me as fucked up as you can get,
yep,
then it's perfect and you'll love it. Like I love this story just because I love like dark horror
yeah,
stories. Like the more fucked up, the better, as long as it makes sense.
agreed,
Well, why it's there.
agreed,
Like
yeah,
it's like I hate to like go back to the Wheel of Time thing with the Queen, whatever her name is, I don't care anymore. Love Wheel of Time, but it's like when they did the thing with her, I'm not gonna go into detail. It's like they didn't do anything with it, just took points. So, uh, but in this short story, it makes sense because it adds to the severe stakes of them having to escape the tall grass.
absolutely, yes. I think it makes it even more
So
severe than it was before.
and I like how she didn't just like cry and take it. Like she tried fighting back, and though she kind of physically lost, she uh how'd she beat him? And she's like kicked him.
She
She kicked him in the
eventually,
nuts.
yeah, she eventually gets her house key out and just stabs him to death. Um,
Yeah.
so very, very graphic for sure. But yeah, she obviously like, but she gets severely wounded by it, which kind of goes into it, and then you know, but
Yeah. So like yeah, once he kicked her in the stomach, you know that the baby's dead. Like there's no
yeah,
way.
definitely.
Um
It's so much worse
and then
in like a written format too. I mean, I'm sure it'd be horrible to watch if it was like a TV show or a movie, but
mhm,
I feel like it's just worse reading it because he's very good at describing probably what it would be like. So
yeah.
it's rough.
And they probably if like even in the movie version of the story, it's not even this short story. Like they change everything basically, like a lot
Okay.
of shit.
Yeah, I haven't seen
So
it.
it's not even yeah, I it's not even the same
I see.
story. So uh so it's like I don't know if any like basic modern movie would like have this kind of scene in it. Like you probably have to be indie or someone who's willing to take a risk on it and just trust the name brand Stephen King.
Yes.
So which if it has Stephen King on it, you bet your ass it's gonna make money. Just the name brand alone.
Yeah.
So it's like, but she's kind of in denial because she doesn't talk about it. It's like he kicks her in the belly, but she doesn't like acknowledge that it's like over. It's kind of she's like, okay, gotta get out of here now. Yeah, and then like then it cuts to like Al, who
Mm.
who's like he's like he can hear a few things. Like he heard the guy talking about the rock. Real cool thing about the rock, real quick. I can't remember the full quote of what Ross said, but he's like the rock came down. It was a it was like a child of Yahweh and like all this stuff. So it's like to me, this rock obviously it's a spiritual being and a fallen angel, so it's a demon from like the fourth dimension that's somehow intertwined with the physical world within this rock.
Yeah.
But we'll probably be able to talk more about this once we finish Dark Tower because the Dark Tower explains Stephen King's multiverse apparently towards the end, I think, because that's where everyone's talking about it. So
Hmm.
when we finish Dark Tower, we'll probably have a better understanding of what this is.
Yeah.
But off the top of my head, when he like says like that, it makes me think, oh, fallen angel, fallen angels are demons. So this sort of rock is a conduit for from the physical world to the spiritual world that holds kind of the presence of this demon, fallen angel.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So then, Cal can hear a couple things. Here's the rock. Here's the fighting. Doesn't hear much. So he's now freaking out. So he's going ape shit, running through the brush. The grass is fucking with him. It's
Yep.
smacking him,
Yeah. But at one point he
messing with
tries
him.
to light it on fire,
Oh yeah,
and that doesn't work. Obviously.
yeah. Well, yeah. So not only is it like fresh grass, but it's also a little swampy.
Yep.
So he like goes through all his free matches he got at the
Mhm.
gas station.
Mhm.
Uh, and then obviously it all goes out, and he tries burning the bombs,
Yep.
and it poofs out, and it's like, wow. I mean, I get he's desperate, so that's like his last hope.
Yeah. And
So
it.
he's like putting all his cards in the can't. All right, so Discord shit out for a bit, so I'm gonna quickly repeat what I just said. Uh, Basically, Cal is lighting matches, trying to set the grass on fire, lights the box on fire of the three matches he
Oh
got
yeah.
at the gas
Sure.
station
Yeah.
to to try. And obvious, we know as the raider of that, no matter like these flames, for one, are not going to kill fresh grass, let alone spirit magic grass. So that's like, but like I get it because in a way what his thought process is because he's like it probably won't work, but it's the last bit of hope he has.
Yes.
So he's holding on to that hope, and he when like he basically wouldn't be able to get over it unless he tried it. So he at least had to try it, knowing it was probably gonna fail.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, and then once it did, his hopes were over. Is this where when you saw like a dead raven or crow? Or was
Yeah,
that earlier?
that's when he finds the kid Tobin, right? And the
Oh,
kid is eating
yeah.
a dead crow, and then you're like, okay, now that obviously the kid's insane too, but
Yeah. So
uh,
I was lost, and then I touched the rock, and now I'm
yeah, now I
found.
know everything. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like I just want to. He's like, I just want to see my sister, and he's just like, you can't. He's like, you'll never find her in the grass. Come touch the rock, and you'll find her. He's
yeah.
like, I don't want to touch your rock. He's like, he's like, if you don't, she'll die.
I remember it wasn't funny necessarily, but there was one part where the kid was like eating the crow, stopped eating it, and then he shook the crow or something in front of his face when he was like talking about something. I can't remember exactly how it was described, but it was like when he was laughing. I'm like, oh my god, this dude's
Yeah,
insane.
it's like, yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
that part. That part like cracks me up a little bit. It's because like, well, okay, dark sense of humor. You just
yeah,
have this
it's
like
not
little
real. It's
kid.
not real, but yeah,
It's no, yeah, it's like this little kid, little boy just sitting in lost in this tall grass, uh, eating a dead crow and talking about a magic rock, and
for
you're
real,
just like, what the
for real.
fuck?
And then
So
yeah,
I love it.
like you said, they go to the rock, and it's similar to Becky, where they're desperate, and he's gonna take the risk of trying to find his sister if he goes to this rock or whatever. So.
Yeah. So this rock has like images on it, uh, that of like small painted men. I'm pretty sure it's like Native Americans
Yes.
with spears and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like running around. Uh, and he was very hesitant to touch it, but eventually did. And then it cuts back to Becky
Yeah.
going nuts in the tall grass.
Yep.
And then Cal shows up, but he's different. He's like, "Oh, look at me, Becky. Like, I'm here to save you."
Right.
She's like, "What's wrong with you? You seem weird. See everything. Touch the roof." She's like going like in and out
Yep.
of consciousness, and she like this part. The first time I read this, like got me a little bit. She's like she goes in and out of consciousness, and she like when she comes to a little bit, she sees him holding like a baby doll's hand or something or a foot. I think it was a foot. And she's like, where'd they get a baby doll? And then immediately you're just like, well, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know she's still in denial.
Right. Yeah. It's obviously at this point you're knowing that they're gonna eat the premature baby, and then they even feed some of it to her, which is disgusting. But yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just like she comes to, or she comes a little bit to, and then he's like, Cal's like, eat this, and he's like normal. Stephen King's or Joe Hill, whoever. It's just like she's like, normally this would be disgusting, but since they were hungry and dehydrated, it was really sweet and tasty. And I'm just thinking in my head, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, how long has it been? Like a day? I'm
Yeah,
like, I don't know.
I don't know if it would
I
taste
don't know.
good, but it has only
Well,
been.
I don't. Yeah,
It probably tastes like chicken. I'm just kidding.
yeah, probably.
I'm joking. No.
Tastes like veal.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, no, just,
But yeah, no.
yeah,
It's
it's gross.
yeah, and then
But
they take her to the rock eventually.
yeah, she's like, where's my baby? Where's my baby? And it's like, he's like, we didn't eat it, did we? Is it dead? And he's like, no, your baby's not dead. Just touch the rock. It'll be fine. We didn't eat the baby. And they're like, what's all that blood all over our hands and face? And I saw this. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Just touch the rock. I'm like, oh, okay. And then And then, she touches the rock too.
Yep.
And then it just cuts to a bunch of stoners
Yep.
that stop by. This part cracked me up because it's like, and not in a bad way, obviously. Like I liked it. It was when the stoners were like talking, and they're all just like, "Yeah, groovy, man. That was what's some like other lingo
They're
there?
like far out or whatever.
Yeah, far out, and it's like it's so like 80s or like 70s, 80s like stoner cliche that it's just perfect.
Yep.
Like it fits in well for me
Definitely.
in a story like this because like you don't need the most complicated characters and it just and then when I think about like when we all used to hang out and like the sort of slang we had growing up and it's like is far out like really any better than whoa that was so beef like Jesus that's cringe as fuck or like oh that's so swag like that's also cringe as fuck so then at least like these slang like far out I think is pretty cool or like groovy or whatever else way better than the shit we grew up with. It's
Yeah.
all
It's all, it just changes over time.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's bussin'. This short story is bussin'.
Yeah, I was
No
busting.
cap.
No cap.
Imagine,
It's
just
fire.
be like these stoners like, whoa, like, bro, I'm hearing there's some people yelling for help out in the corn, bro. No cap,
Pretty
or the
sus,
grass. I mean,
man.
no grass.
Pretty
It's kind of
sus.
sus, man. Whoa, that's totally not swag or whatever you say it. You know what it is? It's some cold storage. Making up some cold storage.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, and the
so
cycle
the
continues.
cycle continues. Yeah, you hear the same because we know Natalie died from the mom,
Yeah.
but the voice you hear is a woman's voice, so you assume it's Becky, and it's like the rock that got him.
Yep.
And so then all the stoners go in because they're like not one of them wanted to save a Honda. They all wanted to help out their fellow men because they're all hippies.
Yep.
So, and I guess that was In the Tall Grass by Stephen King and
Yeah.
Joe Hill.
By far one of the
Uh,
creepiest, most graphic stories I've ever read. But it was really good.
yeah,
It gripped my
it was
attention.
good.
I was like, I remember when I read it the first time, I read it all the way through really quick because I was like gripped by it. I was like, I didn't know what's gonna happen. So it was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, first time I listened to it was about over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. The whole thing was on YouTube, and so I listened to it, and I was just like, I was just like, damn, like I was like, I wasn't expecting it to be as dark as it did, but that was when I was first starting getting to see stuff. So, uh,
Yeah.
I'd say overall, I liked it. If I like, I would buy this in a collection of other short stories of Stephen King's. Like,
Yeah.
so, um, overall about the plot, like, do you think like is there anything to really get out of this besides that? Oh, it was a good story or anything like is there anything that really pops out that really makes you think about anything in particular, or is it just yeah, it was a good read.
Not really for me, honestly. It was more just like, yeah, it was a good read. It had me on the edge of my seat. We didn't really get a happy ending. They all just kind of died, but that's part of
Yeah,
the gig. Um,
yeah,
sometimes with Stephen King. Um, but it didn't disappoint. Like him and Joe Hill, his son, obviously doing it together, and I feel like because they're writing it together, they're like, let's make this as like fucked up as we can, and they accomplished
well,
that. So yeah,
yeah. The yeah, the only things that overall, if I was gonna deep dive or pick something out of it, would be the supernatural nature of the rock,
yeah,
because just because we're in the middle of the dark tower and learning about all these, it's like what if there was like a thinny, right? And
yeah,
then they ended up Roland. ended up getting stuck in the tall grass. Like, could you imagine
Yes,
rolling into this grass?
for real.
Like, so I don't think it's going to happen because he finished Dark Tower in 2007
Right,
and this came out in 2012.
right.
But it's like stuff like that that makes it interesting is why I can't wait to finish Dark Tower 2 is because to know how a lot of these worlds are connected or more about the magic. Because I know there's the Shining that shows up in multiple books, shows up in The Stand, obviously in The Shining, and probably other books too. And then some people call it different things. So than The Shining. So it's like we already have that. So just starting off with reading this and hearing about like The Rock, I'm like, I wonder what is that? What's that in the whole realm of Stephen King? If it's even a part of his universe, since he also wrote Joe Hill. So
Yeah,
I don't know. That's the only thing I'm thinking of. And yeah, it just got me on that Dark Tower graph.
yeah, man. I like how he weaves stuff together. I think it's really cool. I could definitely see how this could become a movie. I know how you said they did make a movie and it was completely different, which sucks. But if they made another movie, I mean, you could definitely take this and turn it into a pretty good horror movie. Maybe add, some more details to make it longer, so it's like not super short. But
Yeah.
I know
And like it
they.
doesn't have to be that long.
No, it doesn't have to be that long either. I know they did that with the Black Phone, which we've talked about reading potentially, where that was written by Joe Hill, his son, and it's a short story. But they made that into a movie, like a horror movie, and it supposedly is really good. So
Yeah, I watched the trailer. I haven't seen the actual movie, but I heard it was really good.
yeah, yeah. So could definitely see how this one could be a good movie as well if it's done right. But obviously they kind of fucked it up. But maybe in the future if they do it again.
Yeah, I think Netflix made the adaptation, or what Netflix people give Netflix,
Yeah,
tell
they're
Netflix, hey, we want to do this, and
yeah.
so it's and the only reason I could think of is why they wouldn't want to follow the actual story is because of the rape scene,
Mhm.
or I guess she doesn't get raped, but like that subject in
Yeah, the
general,
depiction.
because yeah, because because like when you go out of your way to read Stephen King like books and short stories, you gotta like that's a possibility like that. It just happens.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't think. But that's like, and books aren't like as mainstream as they used to be now. It's all movies, television, all that.
Definitely.
So so when it comes to people just like watching movies and that like this is just what I think is like they see in the tall grass, Stephen King and Joe Hill. Yeah, I'll watch it. It's a quick movie, and I think they just don't want to. Uh, I don't want to say trigger. That's a bad word. I want to say like they don't want to uh, get bad publicity for something that they want to make money off of, and rape's a very touchy subject. So
Yeah, for
people who
sure.
don't know Stephen King that well and just watch movies and TV might go into and it just coming out of nowhere and just like make like turning down a mainstream movie.
For sure.
You know,
I'm sure you could write it if you had a good writers. You could insinuate it maybe and maybe not make it so explicit as it is in the story and it'd still be good. But yeah, I don't know, maybe one day.
but because with me, it's like I'd be like I'm fine with it. Like what you're getting into Stephen King.
Yeah.
So and it's like I don't really like when people change what the original author intended
Yeah.
a whole lot. So when it came to In the Tall Grass, I was just I couldn't even finish it. I didn't finish it. This is shit.
Damn.
I'm not doing
I'm
it. And maybe it's good to separate it.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
since I read it before watching it, it was just not me.
I'm pretty sure I read the movie is like universally acclaimed like as a bad like it's just a shit movie in general. Just
Oh really?
yeah.
Well, that doesn't surprise me
For
either.
sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I'm
it's just like
I'm
not
just
it.
gonna Google it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up here. Yeah, 36% Rotten Tomatoes, pretty bad.
Ooh, ooh. Well, I'm not a movie critic, but I don't trust critics anyway.
Let's see what the audience
But
gave it. Audience gave it.
yeah, it was.
So the critics gave it a 36. Audience gave it a 33%.
Dude,
That's just like random
the
people.
one.
So that's pretty bad. Usually the audience is
Yeah,
like better, like they give a higher, score than the critics because they're not
yeah,
critics, but this one they gave it worse.
yeah.
So
That's when it comes to critics, like critic and audience scores. I go on video scores more than critics
yeah,
because
I agree.
the audience is the majority
Yeah,
of people, and the critics are the snooty bastards who think they're better than everybody.
yeah, no, I completely
Fucking won't
agree.
care. I
I
don't care
agree.
what they think. But well,
All right,
that was
that was
Stephen King's In the Tall Grass. Do you have anything else you'd wanna add to it?
no, I don't. I highly recommend. If you haven't read it, go give it a read. It's pretty good. It'll definitely grip you, keep you on your edge of your seat. But yeah, it's really good. That's it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you got it this far, I definitely appreciate it. If and only if you liked the content, I'd appreciate it if you gave us a like. And if you think we can improve on anything in the future, whether it be like audio or structure or anything, please leave a comment and let us know. And we'll see you in the next video, whichever that could be.
Yep.
Let's say goodbye, Andrew.
Sounds good. All right, I'll see y'all later.
Bye.